I lost my confidence completely. I just didn't even know who I was. And sometimes it isn't until you stop and reflect back that you actually realize what you went through. And that taught me people are far more capable than they realize. Welcome to Reclaim Your Voice, a podcast for women in business who are ready to lead with more clarity, more ownership, and more confidence in who they already are. I'm Savanna Madden, confidence coach, public speaker, and the founder of award-winning theatre school Madden Theatre Arts. This is not about becoming someone new, it's about returning to your voice and leading in a way that feels aligned. Here we explore confidence, leadership, visibility, business growth, and the real shifts that happen as you evolve. If you know you're capable of more, you're in the right place. This is Reclaim Your Voice. Hello. I'm Savanna Madden, and this is Reclaim Your Voice. I am so excited to be here because this is my first solo episode since the podcast relaunched, which feels like a very meaningful new chapter. And I feel like I'm entering a new era of podcasting. And I really wanted this first episode to be a bit of a get to know me, find out what I'm all about, because you may have never listened to me speak before. We might have never met before. You might have only just found this space. So I just wanted this to feel like a proper introduction, a chance for you to get to know me, my story, my mission, who I serve, what I'm all about. And that's exactly what you can expect now that you're here. So as the intro says, I'm a confidence coach for women in business. And most of the women I work with are already quite established business owners. And I would also like to caveat that I work with anybody. I work with all people. My clients are just predominantly women. They're not at the beginning, usually, the people that I work with. They've got something solid, good foundation, and many of my clients are running their businesses on their own or have a very, very small team and are working very much in their business and leading in a very kind of hands-on way, if you like. And from the outside, things look really good, Business is booming, got clients coming out their ears, loads of stuff going on. They look really successful. They're making good money, really capable, like so capable, great impact and value delivered, all of that kind of amazing stuff. But on the inside, it's just not the same as the exterior. The internal chatter, the lacking in confidence, lacking in knowing what their next step should be, and just that hesitation to move to the next level. So not only do I help with my clients' confidence, it's kind of a byproduct, to be honest with you, because we work on things like visibility and scaling, leadership decisions, how to make decisions, expansion, recruiting, growing a team, retaining a team. Delegating is one of my favorite things to work on with people because it is something that I have had to learn the hard way a lot myself. So it's one of those ones, when you're in business and you've gone through it all and you didn't have as much help and you've had to work loads of stuff out for yourself. I was definitely that one woman show in my first business, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later on in the episode. I just see myself in quite a lot of business owners, doing absolutely everything. And the old classic line of working in the business, not on the business. So again, we'll talk about that a little bit more as the episode goes on. But of course, when my clients are struggling with these kind of things, this is where I come in. My role is to help business owners step into their next chapter with more steadiness, more security, clarity, and to trust themselves a lot more, because actually they do know what they're doing. They're absolutely blooming awesome. They just need to realize it. And I would say that is one of my superpowers, is that I can see what other people cannot see. And I would like to think, I really believe this, that I'm a very non-judgmental person, and that the feedback I've had is that people feel safe when they're around me, feel safe to open up, talk about what's going on in their business and sometimes in their life. And then we can get to the bottom of what needs to be sorted or not, what they need help with. And I can help even quicker. So I can see in my clients what they can't see. And then I give them the space to be able to explore that, articulate that, And then that's where I jump in and start with my coaching. But I want to tell you a little bit about me as well. If you have not been here before, my background is in the performing arts. Before I began this business and even started my first business, I was a dancer, an actor, presenter, choreographer, a singer, and I have spent over a decade coaching young people to build their confidence through performance and communication. And I am the principal of an award-winning theatre school called Madden Theatre Arts. And this is my first business. So we are turning 7 this year in 2026. So a very exciting time for that business. It's the biggest it's ever been. I've got an incredible team and I absolutely love that business and I hope it continues to thrive. But before that business existed, there was a big turning point before I started my theatre school. And about 18 months before I started my business, I experienced significant burnout and was diagnosed with vocal nodules. So I quite literally lost my voice. And at the time, I was freelancing across so many different performing arts franchises and independent schools, working constantly, leaning heavily into people pleasing behavior, pushing myself completely beyond what was sustainable. And don't get me wrong, I am very proud of my work ethic. I work really hard and I love working in business. I love being an entrepreneur. I love working with people. But this was ridiculous. You know, I was working 7 days a week, all day, every day, no days off, just so unsustainable. And I was navigating life after divorce. I had left my ex-husband. I was in a lot of debt. I had to move countries. There was all sorts of stuff going on. And when I was diagnosed with vocal nodules, I was so fortunate to be able to have access to speech therapy through the NHS. And during my sessions, my speech therapist, delved a lot deeper into maybe what the cause of my nodules were. So it was obviously pretty apparent when I told her what my work schedule and what my lifestyle was like. She was like, yes, well, you've just been using your voice way too much and overstretching yourself. But she also said that it was an emotional response because of the experience I had had in my marriage where I feel like I didn't have a voice, I didn't have an opinion and a say in things. And feeling that kind of silence made me, had taken its toll, basically. And then that moment was the catalyst for change. So everyone loves to use the word pivot. Pivot. You have to be a certain age to get that reference, don't you? And it was the moment that I realized that I just could not live my life in that way. And so I gathered myself and started my theatre school with 12 students in a porter cabin in a car park, no less. And I have been teaching Lambda speech and drama exams to young people ever since. And then that business started to grow. And as I got more students, I was able to let go of more of my freelancing. And then by January 2020, of all times, was the time where I completely let go of all freelancing work. And then obviously the big P happened a few months later. And I was able to pivot again, move everything online. That was all fine. And we carried on and then went back into in-person lessons when it was safe to do so. And that same business that started off in that porter cabin in a car park is now ranked among the top children's activity providers in the UK. And I am supported by the most incredible team who run all the day-to-day goings on in the office. And I've got a team of fantastic coaches who do all the coaching for all the young people that we have in our school. And I'm not sharing this as like a highlight reel about how well my school has done now. I'm sharing it because this is how I look at confidence, right? So when I started my theatre school, I did not have any confidence whatsoever. I had lost it all. It had all gone. And I was a pretty confident person. I have been a fairly confident person throughout my life, but this era was when I was not very confident. But you build your confidence in the doing. There's no point in thinking about it. There's no point in dwelling on it for ages. You've just got to do the uncomfortable bits and you've got to step outside of your comfort zone into what we like to call that stretch zone and really do the doing. because nothing ever happens or improves or grows if you stay still. And we are not born confident. This is such a myth. Say, oh gosh, yeah, that person was born just, born for the stage or born confident. Yes, I'm sure some people are just a little bit more outgoing than others, but confidence can be grown. It's like a muscle. You can train it. It grows over time. Confidence also fluctuates through different seasons of your life. So I would say that I'm much more confident now than I was 10 years ago because I've been building that muscle and building that resilience for a long time. But as I say, it's not fixed. It shifts. It can be lost. It can be rebuilt. It can be reshaped. And having that lived experience just informs now all the work that I do. And as my theatre school grew, my team expanded, I found myself just being drawn more and more to working with adults. And I've just been noticing so many patterns, brilliant women, brilliant people creating incredible things, fantastic businesses, and that kind of disconnect between the external and the internal, where externally things look really good. And as women, particularly, we're really good at masking things and putting on a bit of a front, putting on a bit of a show. I've definitely been in that situation many times. But whilst things look good on the outside, things just aren't as good on the inside for some of us. And that chatter, I'll call it, sort of like that internal negative self-talk, questioning themselves more than ever before. And in the current climate we're in right now, where we're in a trust recession and AI is bigger than ever before, and it's moving at a rate of knots that we possibly can't keep up with, and lots of content is coming across very similar. I think people are relying on lots of different things to help them, but actually they need to go inwards and go inside and trust that actually they do know what they're doing. And maybe there is a little bit more going on inside than perhaps they realized, and that gap between being capable and being confident has been an area that I want to work in. Because so many women don't need more, strategy and things like that. Of course, some of us do. Don't get me wrong, but they just need someone to see what they can't see inside themselves. And that is the best bit about having a coach. And one of the things that my clients often reflect back to me is that they just feel genuinely seen. And I'm not here to fix anybody. I'm not here to push anybody so far that they feel uncomfortable. And I'm not here to push anybody into leadership that they don't feel represents them, or to grow a business that doesn't align with their values. That is not what I'm here for at all. I'm just here to see the unseen and to be the non-judgmental place to be able to work together so that you can grow and find your absolute best self in business. I'm listening and looking for patterns. I am holding that space for you to be just you and talk about your business, and steadiness, the anchoring, so that we can move forward. And confidence, a lot of people think, is just about being a bit more outgoing and a bit more performative. And, I hate the phrase fake it till you make it. I think that there is probably, a place for it in some respects. And I say that lightly, but I don't think anyone needs to fake anything. The more authentic, the more like ourselves we are, the better. We want honest conversations. We want honest content on the internet. We want to know who we're working with, who we're buying from, who we are trusting with our business. And it's having that confidence to feel grounded enough to make those decisions actually reflect who you are. So my mission here, if it's not clear already, is very simple. People to feel seen, heard, and able to take up space with their work and have an impact with what they're doing. Not by changing anything, not by putting on some sort of show of confidence, because I also think that's another misconception. The fact that I'm from a performing arts background, that I'm going to make people start performing, and that's completely the opposite of what I'm doing. But by building intention over time. Confidence is a muscle. It grows through awareness, practice, reflection, tapping into that inner self. And I just want to say that I've just been there. I lost my confidence completely I just didn't even know who I was for a long time. And sometimes it isn't until you stop and think and reflect back that you actually realize all of the things that happened and what you went through. And rebuilding everything after that taught me that many people are far more capable than they realize. And sometimes they just need somebody to reflect that back to them. And I wanted to relaunch this podcast to create a space where women in business can explore confidence beyond surface level advice. And we're not doing the fake it till you make it. We're going authentic. Thank you. And you're going to hear conversations not just about confidence and speaking up and using your voice. We're going to be talking about business growth, scaling, leadership, delegation, visibility, all these amazing things that we need to cover if we're going to be talking about business, right? And you're going to hear stories from guests where they've had confidence wobbles, because no matter how experienced you are, growth is always going to stretch you, and you're always going to have moments where you maybe just don't feel like you're in the right room or whatever it is. And alongside those conversations, I'm also going to be sharing solo reflections like this one to help you reconnect with your own voice as you evolve. And I just wanted to really briefly introduce you to my voice framework, which is what I cover in my one-to-one program. And voice is like an acronym for values, ownership, identity, capacity, and expression. And we delve into all of these inside my one-to-one program. And that's how I help my clients understand how they lead, how they make decisions, how confidence is built from alignment rather than pressure. And yeah, you'll hear me reference it throughout this podcast because it shapes a lot of how I approach both coaching and certain conversations. I thought what I might do today is give you something practical that you can just try. So if you're somewhere that you can pause for a moment, I would just love to invite you to place both feet on the floor, take a slow, deep breath in. And as you breathe out, gently just say your own name out loud. Notice the sound of your voice without any judgment. And now just try this sentence. I trust myself to lead in my own way. Say it once. Then say it again slower. And this is not an exercise that is about affirmations for the sake of it. It's just about reconnecting your physical voice with your internal authority. Confidence often begins with very small acts of expression. And I just want to thank you so much for being here for my first solo episode of Reclaim Your Voice. If you're new to this space, I would genuinely love to hear from you. I adore chatting to people in my DMs over on Instagram, so you can find me at I am Savanna Madden, and let me know what resonated with you today or what your takeaway was from this episode. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Reclaim Your Voice. If today's conversation resonated, then head to the show notes where you'll find my free audio gift. And if this episode helped you in any way, it would mean so much if you shared it, rated, or reviewed the show. That support helps these conversations reach the people who really need them. You can also watch the full episode on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.